she sneaks around the world from India to Carolina. She's a sticky-fingered filcher from Berlin down to Belize. She'll take you for a ride on a slow boat to China. Tell me, where in the world is
Nanne?
Well, he ain't here. Well, he might be here. Might be in town. I think he is, actually. He told me he's going to be in town, which is shocking enough given how crappy the weather happens to be. But he's not in studio. Louie joins us via the Connecticut Water Systems hotline. You usually have such an exquisite sense of timing that when the weather gets as miserable as it now appears, you are billions and billions of miles away. How did it so happen that you got caught up in this time?
Well, I had to come home back and see my family for Christmas.
Oh, that makes sense. That's probably a good reason. That's probably a very good reason. And, it's a very, you're a guy who grew up with, I think, there were no palm trees in the Sioux, were there? I'm assuming it was rather chilly and snowy and, all the things that many of us who grew up, associate with the Christmas period, all that winter stuff.
We had a lot of pines, though. A lot of pine trees up there.
Well, that's true. That's a good point. Very, very good point. All right, so tell me why. I talked to you Saturday, the day after the trade, and about a few different things. But I definitely sensed a little extra bounce in the Luigi step. So why, from the moment you found out, were you so excited about this move?
Well, because this is one of the bigger pieces of the puzzle to get to the Stanley Cup, and I mean the Stanley Cup Finals. You needed a real driver back in defense. That when you get a guy like they got in Hughes, who in many's estimation is the second best defenseman in the league. Remember I told you, all of a sudden the Wild are in a position only Colorado with McKinnon and Makar would be ranked ahead of Kaprizov and Hughes to work as a tandem. I mean, even though you got McDavid, he hasn't got a defenseman of the quality of those two to work with. And you go around Lee Kucherov, the same thing. He doesn't have an offensive defenseman. Edmund's a great defensive defenseman, but he's nowhere close to them offensively, the other two. So when you look at it, all of a sudden the Wild had that type of defenseman. And getting that type of defenseman with the core they got, essentially, arguably, they got the best defense core when they're healthy that there is in a National Hockey League. So you got a team that's got great goaltending November, December, and if it can continue like that with the great defense, now you're in a position to make some noise. And especially if somewhere along the line, and I don't know how he could pull it off because I don't see what assets he could trade to get a top six forward. But emergence of Europe as he's coming along, helping play. I just think what people don't realize, I love Beam, and I think he's going to be a tremendous defenseman. But Beam is not what Hughes is now. He might never be, and even if he was, it won't be for a while. And the Wild's window, where you have your key core guys, would be closing. If you wait three years, see, till Beam gets to that point, if he does get to that point, now all of a sudden you got Kaprizov 3 years older, Zuccarello's probably gone, Spurgeon's probably gone. There's a lot of difference in the core of your hockey club than there is today. The core is ready to emerge right now. And when you get the guy like Hughes, who, by the way, when you get the defense problems like the Wild have had now, I mean physically, he can play 30 minutes a game like falling off a log. He's so easy to handle time because of the way he skates and moves and handles the puck, and it has made a difference even in Brock Faber's ability to move the puck out of the zone. Although Brock was good, really good, but now he can be even much better working with this guy. So I'm just excited about what that lineup has to offer. I don't know if they can keep doing what they're doing when they're so short with six guys out, but I'm just happy where they are.
Is Sidney Crosby next? I mean, I say that half facetiously.
When I said he would be next, but what are you going to pay for a Sidney Crosby even if he is 39 years old?
Well, you tell me.
I'm telling you, you don't have enough to pay. Dubas is not going to be sitting there like Santa Claus. Right? Kyle Dubas, sure-tailed relative of mine. I know he's not going to do that.
Here's the Russo quote on, I think, either a podcast or something called Sportsnet. I'm not sure what. I think a Crosby trade will be a storyline after the Olympics, right before the trade deadline, and I have no doubt in my mind that Billy will get in on that. The question in my mind is, what do you give up? What if they ask for Wallstedt? Are you giving up Wallstedt for a 38-year-old center? So what could the Wild package to possibly get him?
That's what I just finished saying.
Exactly.
I don't think
you don't see it. Yeah.
And I don't say that they're going to give up Wallstedt either, because
you can't give him up.
Then you're saying Gustafsson better be good all the way through. Because even if you got Crosby and all of a sudden Gustafsson doesn't play well, a lot of good you can have 5 Crosbys. It's not going to help the Nets.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate part about it. A couple people had texted earlier wondering whether you, being kind of the hockey historian, is there anybody in NHL lore that Quinn reminds you of, that you say, okay, it's stylistically or the way he moves or the way he controls the puck? Does anybody come to mind?
Yeah, stylistically, especially in his own zone, is Bobby Orr.
Ooh, that's high praise there.
Bobby Orr is a left-hand shot, and Bobby Orr was tremendous in escaping checks. And one night I'm walking out of the rink, and we got beat by Boston, and we had a ramp going down into Met Center there, and I'm walking up, and somebody goes, "Hey, Nanne, why don't you hit Orr?" I turned to him, I says, "I'd like to hit Orr, but you can't hit him with a handful of confetti. You can't,
Yeah.
You go to hit him, he's not there anymore."
Right, yeah.
And Hughes is like that. That's what he reminds me of. That now he doesn't remind me in Orr's ability. Orr could take the puck the length of the ice,
right,
beating people over and over again. Orr was better at beating one-on-one stick handle. But that's other than that, they're so similar. Left-hand shots, the way they handle the puck, the way they are so tough to hit, the way they can, in tight spaces, escape checks, and the head, the smart head they got. They both see things ahead of time, and I mean, when you're talking about Orr, you're talking about, in many people's mind, number 1 or 2 the greatest to ever
absolutely
play.
Yep.
But now you're talking about Hughes. You're talking about a defenseman that's 1 or 2 best that are playing today. So you're getting in that kind of air.
Louie is brought to you by, as always, our good friends at Kemp's. A texter wants to know whether you keep, in your mind, Faber and Hughes together.
Oh yeah, definitely. In fact, when they first were making a trade, one of my friends called and said, "Who's going to play him with?" I said, "I hope they're playing with Faber. You already got a shutdown pair like Spurgeon and Brodin played together last year. They were number 1 in the National Hockey League for not giving up goals at 5-on-5. So you don't want to break up that pair. And then you're going to have the other 2 in the top 4. So it's just like an automatic to start with. On top of that, Faber is really, he's getting better and better all the time defensively. He's been really a tremendous defenseman since they made the trade to get him here, and his experience, he's getting better. And then you got the physical, too, of Middleton and Bogosian that are both been really good players for a while, so that's why many people I've heard since then, even some national people talking about how the Wild, even Lundqvist is saying, Henry Lundqvist, that Wild probably got the best defensive core in the league.
What is realistic? I mean, what realistically do you think could you add at center? It's obviously, I think it's unlikely it's going to be a move anywhere near as splashy as this one. But sometimes you can make subtle moves that are just as effective. So does anybody come to mind? I got to believe you think he's going to try something at center.
I really think he's going to have to wait till the deadline, because I don't see anything coming up before that where he can afford it. And you get to the deadline all of a sudden, some teams are going to be sitting with a player that maybe is not going to sign no matter where he goes. Everybody's going to worry about it. And then you might be able to give a future one or two draft choices for a guy that you're probably going to lose those draft choices, but you're content to do it to add that to your lineup. So it's going to be who pops up in which team. That people talk about the Islanders. They might even been in the playoffs. I mean, since they got that defenseman Schaefer, they've been terrific. But Barzal, they're talking about he doesn't have enough to pay for Barzal right now. I don't think, without hurting
the core,
the team he's got, without breaking that up, because he's given up the best draft choices, young players that he's got outside of the ones that he's using. So it's going to be somebody at the deadline if he gets somebody. I think that he can afford to waste, and I'm saying waste in a word that they might not be a waste if the guy coming in is really effective, but at least take a chance on something there.
We had Bill on Sunday morning, and one of the things he and I talked about was, and you and I have talked about this a lot, the taking the big swing. And I think the quote he gave me was something effective. Well, you can't go through your life always bunting. And implied in that, I think, implicit in that is when you take the big swing, it may not always be the right one. It might come back and haunt you. But I know it's something you've thought about a lot, given the GM role that you had for as long as you did, and even as team president when you're in a different role, but you're still paying attention to what's happening. I'm wondering if you could speak to just the psychology of that. Why is it some GMs, even at the risk of maybe failing, are willing to take the big swing and others not so much?
Well, because they're not afraid of taking a big swing. Some people, when they look at a deal, they look at the wrong side of the deal. In other words, they're looking at, what if it doesn't work? And what if we're, if you start thinking about making the trade, what if we're not going to be as good as we were? You're never going to make a trade. You have to be focused on making a trade, thinking, if I do this, we're a much better hockey team. It doesn't matter if the other guy goes off and scores 100 goals. If he's getting 5 for you and he scores 100 for somebody else, it doesn't mean he was going to get 100 for you. But the people that can't make the trade think, he would have got 100 for me. And plus they're worried about the pressure, the media, the press, what people think. If you're going to do your job as a manager, you have to do a job to do the best job you're doing, what you think is doing, not what people are going to think of you or think of it. You have to say, I'm making this decision because it's the best thing for the organization. And if you're worried about protecting your job, it's the same thing as an athlete going out on the court, out on the ice, out on the field. Before they're walking out, they're thinking, I hope I don't screw up this. I hope I don't make this mistake.
Yeah.
When you worry about making a mistake, you're going to make a mistake. And that's why Jordan was so great. Remember in his last game, he missed 6 shots in a row, and he gets the winning basket as the clock's going down. He wasn't afraid to take that 7th shot. And the great players, the great general managers, they don't fear the mistake. They fear missing out. I'm telling you, the worst thing I could ever think of is, that's why during the draft, I got no sleep during the draft. I used to try and find out every deal that was coming down. If I couldn't make the deal, I'd try and kill the deal. And it would sour the guy I'm thinking about. If you make that deal, you're nuts. You're going to miss this, that. You instigate. You got to be in the fight, and that's where the adrenaline comes from. That's where you really understand and appreciate the job you got. You have to be able. And like I told you, and I told people many times, they said, how do you do that? I said, I never found a job where they pay what I make without any kind of pressure. You got to look at the pressure as just being part of the job, but do the job you think you're going to do to get the best result you want.
All right, so long after the adrenaline rush wears off, there are the practicalities of hoping to assign him to an extension. And a texter much earlier had sent in a note for you, wondering what you think Quinn Hughes' next contract will look like and whether the Wild can indeed build a true contender around 2 massive deals that would be involved here.
I can tell you this, if I was a betting man, a heavy betting man, I'd go bet tomorrow he's going to sign. There's no doubt in my mind he'll sign at least 3 years. And excuse me, there's no situation where they can't afford them. People aren't realizing or thinking about the cap, appreciating it as much as it's going to. So you are in a position because you're going to have one more year at the 7.5. So now you're essentially looking this year, that next year, and the following year, the third year down the line, the cap's going to be around $105 million from 84. So you not only got all that extra cap space coming, you've already got your other key players, being Boldy and Faber, Spurgeon, Brody, they're all under contract, and so is Gustafson. So there's not going to be a cap problem, and I think that he will make 14 to 16 million.
Oof. But that can all work?
Yeah, sure, because you only got one really high-paid player.
Yeah.
In today's cap world, and that's Kaprizov.
What makes you that confident that he'll extend here?
Because I've been to New Jersey. I've seen the situation there.
It's close to New York.
And he's got two brothers. One's a great player, Jack. The other one's a good player. And they're not in a position to win Stanley Cup. And I wouldn't want to be living in that town and worrying about... If you've been around that rink in New Jersey and you've been around that area, it's not a great place to be. On top of that, if you wait 2 years online, Jack's going to be a free agent. There's a better chance of Jack coming here than Quinn going there, in my mind, because you can make things work. And when you're a hockey player or a baseball player, football player, you play to win. If you're really a winning player, which this kid is, he's playing to win the Stanley Cup. And he's going to look at the team and the core he's got here, and he's going to look at what New Jersey's got, and he's going to say, I'm staying right where I am. Because he could come to where I am. I don't have to go to where he is, because he's going to be a free agent another year anyway after that.
Interesting question just came in asking if you could expand on some of the differences between being a general manager and a team president.
Well, as a general manager, in the way it's structured, when I was both once the general manager, then president, it's different today. Today, the president, I look and I say, well, why do they call him president and general manager? It seems to me like Rutherford was more involved in the general manager in this deal with a while.
Yeah.
And the general managers today seem to be having to check with the president whenever they're making a deal or get the okay from the president. When I was president, when I was general manager, the president probably found out when you found out, the press, when I made a deal. I never told him a thing. When I feel the iron's hot, I strike, and that's it. I can't wait till somebody on the other side might change his mind. That's the difference what happened in this day and age. But now, I think that the presidents get involved with the deals. When I was general manager, I never once consulted with Jack Farrar. He was the president then. What deals he's going to make, who he's looking at. I only stayed when I agreed to stay with the North Stars, because I retired being general manager. I was going to leave and go in the business I'm in now because I wanted to get out. And Gordon Gunn talked me into staying as a president. And I said, on these conditions, you don't talk to me about wins, losses. I don't get involved. The general manager's got to have the freedom to run the team the way he wants, and I don't want to be involved. And I said, I will oversee the budget and everything that comes through the operation as the president does. But the decision makers in each of their positions have to make those decisions. I'm not making those decisions. And he understood, because he never got involved with the decision with me when I was general manager. I never had to check with Gordon Gunn to trade somebody, even Bobby Smith. He was the owner of the team. He said, you run it the way you think you should run it. And if I don't like it, I'll get somebody different. But I'm going to let you run it the way you want to run it. And I think that's what's changed today. And many of the sports, you think Jerry Jones, now he's general manager, but before, you think these guys will get so involved? I mean, guys got to check 3 times over before they make a move, which is fine. I mean, if I'm the owner and I got the money, that might be the way I want it. That's good. But it's changed the way it used to be, is all I'm saying. There's a big difference in how decision-making is made today from how it used to be made. I know Sammy Pollock, Bill Torrey, they never checked with anybody when they made a deal. Because I know I've made deals like with Tori writing the phone, we didn't have to check with each other's owner or stuff like that. I mean, that's just the way it was.
Did you play trade poker the same way that Guerin did in this case, which was starting with his best offer? The way he explained it to me was, not going to play around. I'm not going to play that game of back and forth. I know what it's going to take to get the deal done. I'm not, and I want to get their attention, so I'm going to put it all out there from the beginning, including Bouillon from the beginning. Did that surprise you at all, or is that the way you played it, or what do you think?
No, I did that a lot. I mean, as you know, I don't know, we're under trade probably, but I was the same way. I know what I want, and tell me what you want, and if we're agreeable, that's it. I'm not going up, down, and sideways, and so I was definitely that way. I mean, even when I was the first guy to ever go to arbitration in the National Hockey League, and I went twice, and I went because when I tried to make the deals with the teams, I told them what I wanted, and I told them what I'd give them. They said no. I signed the player because then that's when free agency first came. And then if you don't agree, you have to go to arbitration. And when I went to arbitration, I got what I offered. That's the way I felt. You know, there's no use going up, down, unless you're going to add more players in the deal, or you're thinking, okay, I can do that if you give me this. I mean, sure, there's always things you work around a deal if you want. But in this case, Vancouver wasn't going to throw anybody else in a deal. And Bill knew that, you know, that's what I want, and this is what I can afford to give, and this is a hell of a package. And you told me what you wanted, these three things plus the draft choice. Here's your three things, and that was it.
Last item on the deal, and to me, what it represents beyond adding such a high-end player. And I think this was important to you when you were running teams. I look at this deal on another level, and that has to do, and I know this isn't why you make the deal, but I think it's a benefit of a deal like this, that the casual Minnesota sports fan who classifies himself or herself as somebody who might like hockey okay, but maybe he doesn't love it, or might like one sport more than the other, but pays attention to all of them because they're sports fans. This, to me, is the kind of move that gets the attention of everybody, even a casual hockey fan that says, whoa. I mean, we don't know where it's going to end up. We don't know where it's going to go. But it's like, that's big time. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be paying more attention to that entire operation from this point forward. What do you think?
I think you're exactly right. It happened with the Timberwolves, with Gobert.
Right.
Look at that trade. You know, I'm not following basketball all the time. When he made that trade, right after, I'm watching to see the parts that went and what he got and how, you know, how it affected the Timberwolves. And you could say that about baseball. You could say that any big trade is going to get the attention of sports fans. And that doesn't mean just the football fans. It means all sports fans. And some of them are going to react differently and or have more interest than they had before because of the enormity of the deal. And it's no different than all four sports teams are fighting for sales, right?
Correct.
And in the Wild,
no question.
You know, even though they were hanging in there and winning November, the backing at the building wasn't like it was because they had a very slow start. So you got to build it back. You got to get that attention back. And you got to get them back in the building quick, because every game that goes by, you can't sell that ticket again that they didn't come to, or empty seat that you had. So how are you going to make up the difference of money? You got to get the attention quick, and that got the attention quick of not only their own fans, but other fans that were casual fans, and now probably maybe we're going to go 2-3 games. Now we're going to go 5 or 6 or 7. That all makes a difference, and it certainly makes a difference in the media, in the press that you get, in the talk radio, you know, TV shows, everybody talking about this. It doesn't matter what you do today. You turn on anything that's got something about hockey, you're still talking about the Hughes trade.
No question. Yeah, and obviously if the team continues to perform as well as they have, especially recently, it'll it'll keep going. It'll build on itself, in fact, right? That's the way it works.
Well, yeah, in fact, Bill, by making this huge trades, put more pressure on himself because now everybody's not even thinking about the first round. All of a sudden, their opponents have disappeared. They're talking about them in the Stanley Cup final. I mean, these guys that I've just seen, some on Twitter and some on Instagram and stuff like that. They're talking about, the Wild should be in the finals. Now, you don't just pass three rows of competition here in the Stanley Cup. Who knows what's going to happen before you get there? But that's the pressure is going to rebound back in a while now because the expectations have been raised so high.
We appreciate the time as always, and we wish you and yours a very Merry Christmas.
You too, my friend. I'll see you when you get back.
I'll see you back. Yeah, I'm going to be in and out a lot the next couple of weeks, so you got to use that. They don't let you take that vacation time into the next year.
No, I don't get any.
You don't? Your whole life is a vacation, Louie. What are you talking about?
Someone says, why did you retire? I said, I'm retired. I do what I want to do when I do it.
There you go. That defines it. Thanks as always, my friend. We appreciate you. We'll talk soon.
Take care. We'll see you.
Thanks, Louie. Lou Nanne, brought to you by our good friends at Kemp's. Dr. Dan's inbox in about 1 hour. Are we going to have to name a snownomi? I'm all confused by the forecast. We'll get to some other stuff, including some, semi-breaking, although it's been out for several hours, Kevin Garnett news. Stay tuned.
KFAN welcomes Trans-Siberian Orchestra for 2 amazing shows at Target Center December 28th at 3 p.m. and 7:30 p.m. and tickets are on sale now. Get complete show details, including a link to buy tickets at KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
So am I seeing some media reports indicating a belief that a suspect has indeed been identified in the Brown University case?
I have not been following. I will look.
I don't believe that individual has been named publicly, but several law enforcement outlets, I think, are reporting exactly that. And then there's some discussion about the possibility of at least the exploration of a link between that story, those shootings, and the murder of I believe an MIT professor. Although I haven't heard very many details about the linkage and whether that has even yet been confirmed. We'll keep an eye on those stories as they develop. What it does seem to be concerned is that a private plane crash has left NASCAR driver Greg Biffle and his family killed. They were aboard, I think they were among 7 people aboard a Cessna business aircraft, and the plane crashed while landing at an airport in North Carolina. I believe it crashed at Statesville Regional Airport, which is located about 40 miles north of Charlotte, North Carolina, about 10:20 Eastern Time this morning. And there is video of, at least partial video of said crash. It looks as if the plane kind of explodes, into a ball of fire fairly quickly. It crashed off the end of the runway. Too early for information on cause, etc. Biffle was issued a private pilot certification in March. FAA records show in the aftermath of last year's deadly Hurricane Helene, Biffle flew aid by helicopter to stranded victims throughout North Carolina's Appalachian Mountains. He apparently often was involved in such rescue missions. He was NASCAR named Biffle among its 75 greatest drivers in, I believe, the year 2023. But I also think he is retired as well. So a horrific story there as well. I asked much earlier in the program, there are a couple of people who said, hey, Dan, just tune in the show. Kind of wondering, will you be mentioning the latest developments in the land of 10,000 frauds? And as it turns out, by coincidence, we have. We discussed it during the first 2 segments of the program. And during that stretch, I rather impatiently asked for, give me a Democrat who's been willing, regardless of the political implications, to say, what are we doing? How does this happen on our watch, even if, You don't want to attach direct blame to any single Democrat. It's about the system that is in place. And we learned a term like I said, I was not familiar with. I had never heard the term that was introduced
Fraud
today.
tourist.
Fraud tourists. That was from the U.S. Assistant Attorney, a guy who's been on this program before, Joe Thompson. That's some of these latest charges. He's basically saying that we are people are coming now to our state purely to exploit and defraud its programs. That we have become a magnet for fraud. We have developed what he described as a fraud tourism industry. So fraud tourists are coming.
Should we be doing commercials like in our old days?
We would.
When we had the capabilities, we would do some type of commercial. Like, do you want money that's not yours?
All
Minneapolis,
fraud tourists
St. Paul
are welcome.
The
pretty
state
much.
of Minnesota. Come on in. No sales tax and no ramifications.
Well, somebody reminded me of these comments, and I think we quoted them at the time, a Democrat named Ann Rest, a state senator. And I think it was in June of 2024 that she had come forward, and I think the quote, her money quote was, "The buck is still running down the street," as in everybody's passing the buck, nobody's being held accountable. And that's...
The buck has not stopped with anybody.
Exactly. And that's part, to me, for the people who say, well, I mean, how directly can you blame the governor? It's not so much just that. It's, would you not agree, it strains credulity that more people haven't lost their positions, that there's been so little accountability at the levels where you'd say, well, even if you don't want to directly blame the governor, somebody, Chris Carter said everybody's going to have a fall guy, but I would say not a fall guy in the sense of somebody who didn't deserve it, but somebody who might. And that's, I also think, part of the problem here politically. I'll say again that, Walz, I think Walz should have the decency to announce he's out. I'm done. I really do. I think he won't, but that's, I think, what he should do. And I think privately, there's probably a lot of Democrats who would applaud it. They too won't say it. But in addition to that, if the Republicans don't understand the opportunity that they have here, then shame on them. Because I don't think there's any question that Walz has never been more vulnerable. And by the way, some of it might be for the wrong reasons, just the old, we're tired of him. The same voice, it's like how we change coaches. We're tired of the same voice. We want somebody else. He's had his let's move on. Let's try somebody else. But in addition, there's this, another press conference today involving more Medicare fraud from, again, Joe Thompson laying it out and basically saying, what was the number? This is
$18 billion.
$18 billion, and he's estimating, without proving it yet, $9 billion or close to $9 billion of that might be fraudulent as well. They just say, or the quote I didn't use earlier, see if I can find it. I should have mentioned it the first time around. Every day we look under a rock and find a $50 million fraud scheme.
Crazy.
I mean, that's just insane. But I'm sitting here and I'm thinking this out, and I'm going to the Republicans. You can't be this stupid to waste this opportunity, can you? You can't be. Well, guess what? They're on the track to being that stupid because largely most of the people with name recognition, I just don't think have much of a chance. And, the guy, maybe he's bored with it. Maybe he doesn't even want to mess with it. The guy who I think could flat out win this election on the Republican side and beat Walz, unseat him, is T-Paw. I think now what T-Paw has said, in fact, I think he said this in an interview with my former partner, Mr. Hartman, that, I've been approached, but the problem is it doesn't work because I don't fit in the MAGA Republican Party, even in this state. It's not a good fit. And he's not wrong. But then I go back to the Republican leadership and I go, really? Whatever conviction you think you're holding on to, it's going to end in another defeat if you're not careful. And to me, that's what T-Paw represents, right? A little bit less
the last guy to do it.
Hardcore righty.
Yep.
But certainly right of center. No one would ever, I think, confuse T-Paw with like the mayor of Minneapolis or the mayor of St. Paul, for that matter, right? But I don't know if they have the cojones to say we're starting our own revolution. We're just not. We want to win, and we got a guy who's vulnerable as hell. It may not matter. Let's stay on schedule. I'm actually a little bit behind. We got Top 5 at 5 coming up. I do want to remind you the inbox will be open at 5:30, and there's plenty of room, according to Guardsy. So please email him with your latest letters, jg@kfan.com. We'll talk KG, as I promised a minute ago, next. Get excited about the news that Lori Fisher breathlessly offered to both of us, I should say, as we were preparing what the Friday Enough Said show should look like, and that was the news that broke. Was it late last night or early this morning?
This morning,
that Kevin Garnett is going to be reunited with the franchise that he once loved and then hated because of Glenn Taylor. And I think it was pretty much assumed it was going to happen. So I'm not saying it's not a worthy story. I'm not saying that it should not be celebrated. But part of it for me was, unless I missed some of the details, it's so open-ended. It's not like, okay, on such and such a date, KG is going to be back at the arena being saluted, whatever. And because the stories I read were sometime within the next 2 years, he's going to get his number retired.
Yes.
His jersey retired. And I'm going, I'm not sure that's the way you really hit this with pizzazz, with voltage to get everybody's attention on it. Because I think we all kind of presumed that it was inevitable it was going to happen. But I don't think it's all very vague right now, is it not?
Yes. We don't. He's basically an ambassador.
Yes.
He's basically, I think that's what they've called him. And the news is that it's now official that this is what he's going to be around more. They're on good terms.
Right.
The jersey's going up. You're right. It certainly did not need to lead enough said, as I think we made clear.
And this will probably sound a little self-serving. It wouldn't be the first time on this show for me. But if they wanted to maximize the announcement, what they do is, at a prescribed time, you tell me, hold on a second, the hotline's ringing. And the hotline is a prearranged phone call from KG saying, "What's up, Minnesota?" The whole bit. Announcing it that way on our show, live, in the 5 o'clock hour. That would have some impact, would it not?
KFAN.
Just have something where, as opposed to, a media,
another shams bomb.
Yeah, a shams bomb, basically saying, because this isn't like a trade, he's going to be back working within the organization. That's how you maximize it, right?
Along those lines, what will annoy you even more?
What's that?
He's been in town the last couple of days.
What?
I know he was in town yesterday, my sources say. So he could have come right. He might be in town right now. I don't know.
Does he have a key card? I don't think he does.
We could get him one.
We probably would I bet you we would get him a key card.
We could bring him up the freight elevator. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's fine. Again, I think you grew up with him.
It's
a
great
legend.
news. It's going to be an awesome night. Yeah. I'll probably have to take, if it's during the week, I'm probably going to have to take the show off.
Yeah, I understand that.
And I'll be crying, most likely, wearing an old Garnett jersey with rubber bands around my wrist. That's how it's going to go for me.
Yeah. So again, I'm not saying it's bad news. It's good news. It's welcome news. It's inevitable news, and it's essential news, right? It makes no sense for this, period of I guess you could say, bad blood, this schism that, for it to go on, and it wasn't going to go on. Everybody knew it was the worst kept secret ever, that the schism was because he can't stand Glenn Taylor. I'm not even sure he's completely fair to Glenn in that regard, but it didn't matter. I mean, he's KG, and as long as he was the owner, the schism was going to be intact. I think we all understood that once he lost the bid to hold on to the team, that there was inevitably a day was going to come where KG was back in the building and a big part of it. I just wanted more of a, okay, leave us out of it. Doesn't have to be about us. Pick another show. Have a presser where you reintroduce to the market who adores him, that loves him.
That's what I was looking for,
KG.
yeah. I was looking.
That's
are we
the way
going
to
to see
do
him
it.
soon? Because he's coming back for select games. That was part of the announcement.
It's a start.
Increasing fan engagement, so he'll probably, take some pictures in the member lounge, the whole deal.
Let me get to a couple quick texts before we prepare for top five. Every single person I know, talked to, is not MAGA Trump. People don't even know what MAGA is. Nobody likes Trump. It's the fact that he does what people want. Yes, he's a bozo most of the time, but he works hard. It's all about the 401k boomer status. This is from China Guy. I met Royce White at the fair. I told him we need someone like Pawlenty to beat Walz. He said, bleep Pawlenty. He's no better than Walz. That's from China Guy. Dan, you're talking about how Republicans squandering an opportunity as the Dems are vulnerable due to fraud and Walz is done. What makes you think it matters who the Republicans run? All the loony lefties will vote D down the ballot no matter what. Fraud with money and fraud with elections. So glad I moved to the free state of North Dakota. Is North Dakota free? We're not free, I guess. Is that the implication?
Probably freer than us.
Today's Republican Party is different ideologically than Pawlenty's Republican Party. Well, yes, that would be stating the obvious. We're well aware of that. As a Democrat, I was planning on voting against Walz next election, but if the Republican candidate is Mike Lindell, I will be voting Walz again.
He threw his hat in the ring this week.
I'm a Trump Republican, and T-Paw is exactly the right guy. Minnesota will not go for a Trump Republican. Here's from KFAN Girl. Fraud Blues, Quinn Hughes, Snowshoes, Wolves and 5. And lastly, your guy, I think it's Maury Amsterdam guy. Let me find it. Where did it go? There it is. Firing someone would admit accountability, which Walz won't do. Instead, he's portraying Somalis as victims, and remarkably, he'll win again. Republicans will nominate a lunatic and throw away a golden opportunity. Now, that's from that's a righty, Maury Amsterdam guy, right? That makes no bones about that. He has that same concern. So there you have it. A top five will include?
It will include maybe a little bit more detail on the KG thing, the Vikings injury report, and the Minnesota Wild are back in action.